My name is Schuster, and I work for Deutsche Welle, which is Germany's international broadcaster. You know that if you have attended the previous session with my colleague Guido, but I probably may repeat one or two sentences, but sorry for that. I'm working in the Director of Programming's office, and I'm concentrating on everything digital there. I'm a journalist, and I'm a country girl, but more about that later. Deutsche Welle, or DW as we call it, is a public broadcaster, and this year we're actually celebrating our 65th birthday. We have programs in 30 different languages, in German and in English, of course, but also in Russian, Chinese, Dari, Pashto, many other languages. Not in Italian, though. I apologize for that. What we do have, though, are 4 different TV channels, multiple websites, and loads of content on social media. And when I say social media, I'm talking especially about Facebook and Twitter. In fact, social media has become increasingly important for us in recent years. And just to make the dimensions clear, we have about 4 million people who are following us on our Arabic fan page, another 2 million who are following DW News on Facebook, 1 million people who are fans of our Spanish Facebook site, another million who are following our Hindi program on Facebook. So you can imagine that when Facebook changes something, when a new Facebook product is coming up, we're very keen to experiment with any new thing that's coming up on Facebook. And while talking about new developments, I was wondering who in this room has already left Facebook for good because of, the whole Facebook scandal? Could you raise your hands if there is anybody? So nobody. Anybody who's thinking of leaving Facebook for good? Yeah, 1 or 2, okay. I think the rest of us, including myself, is planning to hang on for a little while. And so is our audience. And if I am asked, is Deutsche Welle staying on Facebook? Of course we will, as long as there is such a huge audience out there who's willing to follow us on Facebook. We will stay there and trying to do our best to... I think the sound wasn't good. Okay. We are doing our best and provide people with the content they want from us. Of course, solely reacting to what Facebook does is not a viable strategy for a media company these days. Everybody knows that. So I assure you that we are also doing our best to diversify our distribution strategy and also to strengthen our own platforms. I think everybody does that these days. Yeah, but I was asked to talk about our experiments with Facebook Live in the past year. And I'll do just that and concentrate on that and maybe take a few questions afterwards in the next hour. So I already told you that I'm a country girl. I grew up in Western Germany, very close to the Dutch border. And the land there is so flat that we used to joke that you could see on Friday who would come for tea on Sunday. So, that's a long time ago. As a country girl, when I was preparing for this talk here, I was thinking, with the Facebook scandal in mind and all those unpleasant side effects of it, of social media on our societies these days, I was wondering, wasn't everything better in the past, when the world was still nicely sorted and even in the media, everybody could tell whether he or she was a newspaper journalist or TV or maybe radio person or even online journalist. And as I pondered, I imagined our director, I hope he's not listening now, I imagined him to be, a nice old-fashioned German farmer holding a large number of different animals on his neat little German farm, like radio or TV, he had online, and also horses, and of course some chickens. And he had a very good and steady livelihood because he knew, how to cope with those animals. He knew how to handle them. He knew what they would bring him, like the goats, the milk, or the cows, maybe a good steak, and of course the chickens would earn him eggs. So, in other words, his life was perfectly all right until one day something really unexpected happened, and the truck of the chicken baron, we could just call him Mark, rolled into the yard, and Mark got out of his truck, beaming, and he'd hand over a new animal, which he brought with him in his truck, to our poor farmer. And he said, this is such a miracle animal, it will earn you a fortune. So, there it was. Our farmer was a bit, astonished. He'd never seen such an animal. And Mark, he would just, tell him, make something of it. And then he just got back into his truck and left our poor farmer alone with this animal. And, our farmer, he didn't really know what to do, but he somehow thought, I better get to work. Our farmer, of course, knew that Mark always had a good nose for business. So, although he didn't know what to do with it, he thought it might be a good idea to just start experimenting with this, so to say, miracle animal. And didn't this happen to all of us last year when Facebook somehow came up with Facebook Live all of a sudden? Suddenly it was there. And with all those promises of the chicken farmer, the chicken baron, Mark Zuckerberg, who promised publishers huge reaches, he said everybody will love life just because everybody loves video on Facebook. And he promised huge engagement rates because people would love, to comment and share all those entertaining live videos. And this is what every publisher always is after, huge engagement rates. And that's why publishers started to experiment with live. The only thing Facebook didn't tell publishers was, how to actually prepare or produce these fantastic live videos. How are we going to do it? Although they even paid some publishers for live content, they didn't provide anybody with a silver bullet. So everybody was basically in the same position as we were. There was nothing else to do than start experimenting. So, as I said, there was nothing to learn from others. There was nothing to copy from, basically. So we at DW also started to experiment, and I'd like to show you some of our results. So there should be sound. Excuse me? Sound?
Devam ettirebilirsiniz. Son olarak Hakan Yılancı'dan gelmiş. Müslümanım, öğrenciyim, ev arkadaşlarım ateist, gül gibi geçiniyoruz valla. İnsanları tanımak, ideallerine saygı duymak lazım demiş. Ve ben de bu cümleyle, daha doğrusu bu yorumla programı bitiriyorum. İzlediğiniz için, katıldığınız için, yorumlarınız için teşekkür ediyorum. Bir dahaki yayında görüşmek üzere. Hoşçakalın. Tschüss.
Tokalaşmıyoruz herhalde. Tokalaşmıyoruz.
Yeah, that was in the box ring with Nala. In the Box Ring with Nalan was the first social show that we have experimented with. we figured it would be interesting for our Turkish audience to have a show where, with clear rules, with a referee, where people could discuss sensitive topics on air in a fair environment. We did that for a little while, but unfortunately we had also to stop it because I think the idea was pretty good, but we underestimated that it would be really, really difficult to get people to be guests in this show. It was very hard to manage the community during this show because the discussions got really, really heated. There were also a lot of hate comments we had to deal with. And to be honest, it was even a matter of security. Not any guests we asked to come into the show, not a lot of guests were willing to expose themselves to discuss sensitive topics, like we did one about religion, do you believe in God, something like that. And our assumption that it was pretty difficult to offer a show for our Turkish audience to discuss sensitive issues was right in the end. And we decided to stop it for a while and to rethink the concept. But yeah, we kept on experimenting, as you will see right now.
Вы смотрите информационную программу Deutsche Welle «ДВ Новости». Здравствуйте. Наша главная тема сегодня. Законопроекты о статусе Донбасса. В чем суть документов и как к ним отнеслись на Западе? Недоплаченные в казну миллиарды Евросоюз хочет лишить налоговых льгот компанию Apple. И конфликт в Испании. Конституционный суд запретил заседание регионального парламента Каталонии. Внимание официального Киева сейчас приковано к конфликту на востоке Украины. В Верховную Раду внесены два законопроекта о статусе Донбасса, которые вызвали в стране большой резонанс. Моя коллега Катерина Иванова о содержании этих документов.
В Киеве решают судьбу подконтрольных сепаратистам территорий Донбасса. Для урегулирования ситуации на востоке страны президент Украины Петр.
So that was a little part of a TV news show that we broadcast daily, also on Facebook Live. We have a stable audience of around 7K people who watch it daily on Facebook Live, whereas we do have 50K people who watch it daily on YouTube. So one couldn't say that this is extremely successful on Facebook Live, obviously. And why is that? I believe that this format is just not suitable for Facebook Live. It's not interactive. People have no chance to interact with the host. They are not able to ask any questions. They just, get the information. It's all about hard news. And that's not really what people want on Facebook. Plus, the format is 16:9. This is also not very, easy to use. It's basically 100% TV show. But why do we still put it on Facebook Live then? Well, because, as I said, part of our audience is still there. It doesn't, really cost us a thing to also put it on Facebook. It's just another distribution platform we put it on. And that's what we decided to do. Of course, it's 100% suitable for Facebook, but as long as there are people out there who are on Facebook and who want to watch this format, we'll broadcast it also on Facebook.
Sayyida, dürfte ich Sie etwas fragen, warum sind Sie hier?
Weil ich die AfD fucking scheiße finde.
سألتها لماذا أنت هنا وتقول أنا هنا لأنني متذمرة من هذه الحزب. باش ترتق لنا وبيجي زقبرتاي. سألتها ما الذي يزعجك بهذا الحزب وضحكت هي ضحكة للسخرية والتهكم طبعا. بس كنا
Wenn man sich das Wahlprogramm anschaut, der AfD, kann man ganz klar erkennen, dass es einfach scheiß Nazi-Schweine sind. Sie haben absolut die falschen Ansichten an so vielen Themen, die ich jetzt gar nicht alle aufzählen kann. Allerdings handelt es sich einfach um Nazis, die nicht wollen, dass noch mehr Leute, die in Not sind, hierher kommen Leute, die gegen Leute mit Farbe sind einfach Arschlöcher. Und deswegen bin ich hier.
Vielen Dank. هي
So I saw some of you smile. Those were the ones who understood German, because this lady was using very, very strong languages. She had very strong opinions about what was going on in Germany at that day. So that was the evening of the German general elections last year. And our reporter from the Arabic department of Deutsche Welle went to a huge demonstration, which was taking place spontaneously in the heart of Berlin against the electoral success of the extreme right-wing party AfD. And this video was actually a huge success for our Arabic colleagues, because the reporter was out there at the very right moment, and he did not only report what was going on, and he did not only explain it to our users, he also took questions from them. And as this was a demonstration against right-wing or Nazi party, as this woman posted, people, of course, had a lot of questions, about rising xenophobia in Germany, about what was going on in general after the elections and all that. So I think he did a really, really good job, when it comes to live streaming, because he really was the eyes and ears for our audience out there.
A link. You are tuned to DW's Africa Link program, coming to you straight from our studios here in Bonn, Germany. I'm Isaac Mugabe.
And my name is Jen Nyinge. Glad you could join us.
Coming up on the show, Togo's opposition coalition has begun 2 days of protests demanding the resignation of President Faure Gnassingbe, whose family has been in power since independence.
If you want to have 2 words that sum up the mood, it's probably...
So this was also Facebook Live, but Facebook Live audio. Live audio has never been pushed by Facebook as much as live video, but it's still out there since last year. And as you might know, Africa is still a very audiophile continent. So our radio programs, DW's radio programs, are very successful in many countries where they are distributed via shortwave. But since last year, we are also broadcasting some of our radio programs on Facebook Live. We call the new concept social radio, and it allows us also to take questions or comments from users and answer them in the show. We get also suggestions. You know what I mean, for topics which we try to follow up in the show. And for us, actually, Facebook Live audio is something like a digital call-in radio show. So our users really like it, and it's just an add-on to what we are still doing when it comes to radio in Africa. So, what have we actually learned from all these experiments? What advice would we give farmers who are considering to change their livestock farming to Facebook Live? Most importantly, I would say Facebook Live is not a format. I've shown you just a little bit of what is possible when it comes to Facebook Live, but there are many, many good and creative formats out there. For example, NPR, the American public broadcaster, had invented a show where editors competed with the internet or the audience who found the most compelling headline for an online article they had just texted and wanted to put out on the internet. And that was really, really insightful because it also explained a little bit how journalists actually work. And I think this is something which is also very much needed nowadays, that people lose trust in journalists because they also don't really know how reports are being produced. Another interesting example of a Facebook Live was a TV station in America who just broadcast live weather updates on Facebook Live during in between 2 TV shows. During a thunderstorm, so that way they really showed that they cared about their users' needs and that they were, willing to provide them with all the information they had. And yeah, then there are also, these long-form videos, which I, found myself watching last year, like, waiting for hours for April the giraffe to give birth to a baby giraffe in some zoo in Denver, which is kind of embarrassing. But yeah, as myself, many people like to watch this sort of long-form live broadcasts. And as I said, there are plenty of different formats which you could think of. So basically, Facebook Live is not a format, it's a new way to broadcast. And as far as DW is concerned, last year we really concentrated on the live reports that our Arabic colleague prepared, which I just showed you. And especially during the German general elections, we produced like tons of these live reports, also because we knew that Facebook Live video was still being pushed by the Facebook algorithm, which is unfortunately no longer the case. We made a lot of mistakes during our experiments, and I would say one thing that we really underestimated was planning. So, of course, you can always go out there, hit the live button, and start to broadcast live. Anyone can do that. And yeah, by the way, who in this room has already live streamed via Facebook Live? That's quite a lot of people. So all of you who haven't done it yet, I strongly suggest that when you go out and try it, you set your privacy settings to only I can see that for the very first time, and just to be on the safe side. But back to planning. Facebook Live is really becoming more and more professional. In the beginning, you could just stand up and go live, and anybody who would be a fan of your page or who would follow you as a journalist would get a push notification and had the opportunity to join this live broadcast. This is no longer the case. So if you really want people to watch your live videos, you should, as a journalist, really prepare professional videos these days. And what is a professional video? Well, it's also about a very calm picture and a good sound. So there are all those things that you learn in mobile journalism classes, which you should really consider, like if you're on your own, which I don't really recommend, then you should carry a selfie stick with you or a tripod, because when you try to shoot a live video and then maybe talk to somebody at the same time, you really get into trouble and you won't shoot a professional live video anymore. That's for sure. And you might want to use one of those shoulder pods which really provide for a calm camera work. I always recommend that you have a cameraman and that this cameraman wears headphones, which is really essential, because otherwise you cannot control the sound that you'll get something, as we just heard from the Arabic guy. I think we didn't have headphones with them. On this shoulder pod, you can always mount additional light. This might be very helpful as well. And yeah, in other words, try to be as professional as possible. And when it comes to answering questions, which always arise during a live stream, and which you, of course, should encourage during the live stream, you should carry a second mobile phone with you. At Deutsche Welle, we always have a second mobile phone with us, and we have set up a WhatsApp group so that the community manager in the editorial office can sort the most relevant comments and send them to you via WhatsApp, which is much easier than trying to follow. It's gone, but you have seen the Arabic guy had like hundreds and hundreds of comments, and it's not possible as a reporter to read them all and to figure which is the most relevant or most interesting, funny, whatever comment that I would like to answer. Yeah, I manage the community manager already, so we do really have an iron rule at Deutsche Welle, which is, never ever go live without a community manager. Let me explain what community managers at DW do during live streams or even before that. First of all, they look at your test live stream. I always recommend, before you really go live, do a test live stream. Go to the venue which you want to broadcast from and check the connectivity there. If you want to walk from A to B during your live report, check the connectivity all the way along. You also have to know how long it takes to get from A to B. You have to know if there is somebody to talk to at all, because it's not really good when you start looking for people to talk to during the live stream and you appear, to be lost somehow. So, and you can test all that with your community manager, who can also give you, feedback on picture and sound and everything. That community manager would also put out an announcement on Facebook right before you go live, while you are busy, preparing for other things. And as I said, when the time comes, they will be the ones to identify the most relevant comments and send them to you on your phone. The community manager would also answer a couple of questions which arise during your live stream, because you can't obviously do it yourself. The community manager would delete hate comments, which is also essential, I'd say. And you can also finally post some non-live content and add context to your live report, because normally if there is some very interesting event, you would always have some articles who would provide context and which you can post on Facebook and get a bigger reach by posting them into this ongoing live stream. Tell a story. Well, as a journalist, you know that storytelling is crucial, always. Everybody knows that. People remember stories better than anything else. That's why I was telling you the story of the farmer. I bet you'll never forget it when it comes to Facebook Live. So, as I said, when you go live, you have to tell people a story. So think about it beforehand. Think about what you really want to tell people. And in storytelling, the hero and his journey is very important. So you are the hero during the live report. So go on this journey and think about what could be the challenges, and if there a possibility of the users where they might help you on your way. That's why you should ask them for feedback, Storytelling is something that's often neglected, and that makes a live report sometimes very, very boring. So the point of any successful Facebook Live report is meet your viewers at eye level. Facebook is a peer-to-peer platform, right? So you shouldn't just stand there and tell people what you have researched before, what you as a professional journalist already know, what you have found out, and what your opinion is. That would be very old school, very TV style. On social media, people want you to interact with them on eye level, So take them with you on your journey, lend them your eyes and your ears. Let them discover what's out there together with you, rather than telling them what you already know. That's something that's really, really changed, I'd say, and that's a big difference to any TV live report. And that's also, for some of my TV colleagues, the biggest challenge, because they are used to standing there in front of the camera and the storm is all around them, and they pretend to not even notice it because they are really, really tough TV reporters. And when you're doing a social media live stream, you could really tell that this is totally freaking you out and really, really frightening, and how it feels, and ask people, how it feels for them. So that's in the attitude of the reporter is such a big difference between TV reports and live streaming on Facebook or social media in general. So live streaming on Facebook in general is a two-way communication that you should really, really take seriously. And that does mean that you also have to listen to your viewers. It's not, a good way to ask them for comments in the beginning and then not even mention one of them during your live stream. That's not very polite. And there's also nothing against saying hi to people if they say hi to you. Why not greet them individually when they, they really enjoy it and they appreciate it if you just, get very much in touch with them. Finally, an important but maybe not so nice learning from all our experiments. Please always think of the safety of your reporters, your interviewees, or your interlocutors before the live stream. It's highly unlikely, but in the Dominican Republic, for instance, one reporter even got shot during a live stream. Please always remember that your live stream will always be visible via the Facebook Live map, unless you switch off the geolocation function. So everyone can see where this reporter is. And if you are worried about the safety of your reporter, you should, in my view, prefer to maybe shoot a web video rather than send him out there for a live video. Live video is not always the best option when it comes to breaking news situation, for instance. So, our farmer found out a lot about how to keep this new creature of Facebook Live. He experienced a certain hype around it. A lot of people came to see it, but unlike the chicken Baron Mark had promised, our farmer didn't make a fortune with this animal. In the end, it turned out that this was also just a very ordinary animal. It added somehow to the farm revenue, but yeah, well, the farmer didn't get rich. So he's still looking for other sources of income, and that's why he keeps on experimenting with all sorts of other species which are coming up. Yeah, and after all these experiments, our farmer, of course, is always keeping a keen eye on what the chicken baron is doing. And the chicken baron is currently very excited again because he has announced that he has a new product or a new animal in stock that he wants to export from the US to Europe and the rest of the world very soon. And that animal is called Facebook Watch. So what's next? At Deutsche Welle, we are also experimenting with Facebook Watch, and I'd like to show you a tiny little example. We're not there yet. We're not entirely happy with this product, but I thought you might like to have a glimpse on what we're currently working on. Sound, please.
Hello and welcome to 15 Minutes here live on DW with me, Liz Show. And today we're gonna look at the topic of abortion. We're looking at the right to choose versus the right to life. And I'll be talking to US singer-songwriter Joy Villa. She will be joining me in a moment. And maybe you caught her at the Grammys, at this year's Grammys. Joy Villa caught people's attention by wearing a dress with a fetus painted on it and carrying a handbag with the words "Choose Life." Joy is a supporter of US President Donald Trump, has been part of his campaign advisory board, and she speaks about what it is like to be a conservative woman of color.
There's a lot of other ways to deal with this.
But there are many countries where there isn't an adoption system in place like you have in the US or in many European countries. There are many countries when you are maybe too young to become a mother, you are shunned from the society. There's the stigma that surrounds the pregnancy. It is a health risk to get pregnant. So many women just say, okay, I'll just get an abortion. What is wrong with that? Why do they have to get the child and then give it away?
Well, nobody has to do anything, but abortion has a lot more hurtful things that happen after than many women will admit. I know many women who are post-abortive, and I have no judgment on them at all, but who regret their decision or who've had health risks because of an improperly done abortion. I mean, there's many risks in even getting a properly done abortion, as well as emotional risks. And I think this needs to be taken into account when we talk about women. It's not a cut and dry thing. It's not like an abortion will make it go away. You still have to go in and get a medical procedure. You get put under. You have to go. It can be a harrowing experience, especially if you're a young girl.
So yeah, that was like a short snippet of one of the episodes we've produced for a new show, which is called 15 Minutes, because it's called 15 Minutes because it's obviously 15 minutes long. And we're working on it because, as I just said, Facebook has announced that it'll roll out Facebook Watch this year throughout the world. They have started 7 months ago with Facebook Watch in the US. We don't really get information about when they are ready to roll it out internationally, and of course nowadays they do have a lot of problems, so it's really hard to tell when it will all happen, but there are some things that we do already know about Facebook Watch. We know that they prefer episodic content. They prefer shows which are being broadcast on a regular basis. And of course, it's an approach of Facebook to challenge YouTube, but also traditional broadcasters, because in the end, it's all about money. It's about advertising budgets, and longer form video obviously would attract more advertising money also on Facebook, because they could add mid-roll ads and of course branded content shows, stuff like that. Because Deutsche Welle is an information provider or a news publisher, we are concentrating on this show right now. Of course, we know that on Facebook Watch, entertainment and sports will be highly successful, but that's not really our core business. So we opted for this show, which is all about discussing current political or social debates. Of course, we try to identify subjects which are likely to be discussed a lot on Facebook. Abortion, I think, is a very good example because people get very emotional about it. So it's a very Facebooky topic, I'd say. And in fact, we got a lot of discussion after or during that video. In general, we are not so much happy about how many people are currently watching the show. But we are seeing that they are watching this kind of show longer than they do watch ordinary web videos. They are almost watching as long as they do watch our other live formats on Facebook. So this is promising, I'd say. And when Facebook will be rolling out Watch in Europe and throughout the world, it'll also be possible to link groups, really active communities, to shows like that one. And that would, bring really, really new opportunities to get the discussion going and to ask people for topics that be interesting for them, or even for, interesting guests for the show, stuff like that. So we are really, really looking forward to keep on experimenting with this format. And we actually enjoy experimenting. Other people say, oh yeah, there's always, a new product coming up, and Facebook is dragging the publishers, and they just have to react to what Facebook is bringing up. But yeah, we do enjoy it, and we also see a lot of opportunities. And yeah, well, I hope you already enjoyed this input, and I'm happy to take questions if there are any. Thank you. Many questions.
Hi, sorry, I got it by chance. A simple question: any comparisons with Periscope Live and YouTube Live, in terms of your experience? Periscope and
Periscope. Yeah, we're only doing
YouTube?
this. We do broadcast live on Periscope, but then we broadcast our TV program on Periscope, and that was really, really successful during the German general elections as well. So we broadcast our TV live coverage on Periscope as well. But when we're doing shows, we only do them on Facebook because we have a much bigger community on Facebook our audiences there. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Antonio from RAI Regional News. I got two questions for you. How many people should live broadcast involve? Because you talked about the cameraman, you talked about, of course, the journalist, you talked about community manager, and anybody else? First question. Second question, are you also broadcasting on Facebook what you're broadcasting on the network? And do you think that can work, especially with Watch?
Okay, first question, you can have teams from 1 to 4, I'd say. So you can do it all by yourself. That's possible, especially when you're the only one in a breaking news situation, then you don't have a choice, and you'd rather go live than not do it. But we always recommend to have 3 people at least, which would be you, the reporter, then somebody, the cameraman, and a community manager. But sometimes, like when it gets really, really crowded, it's also, much easier to have a third person on the ground who could help with, finding people to talk to, or maybe, having a look at kind of, not so nice situations. Security is an issue sometimes. So yeah, as I said, for teams from 1 to 4 are pretty good. And the second question about are we broadcasting stuff we're broadcasting on TV, also on Facebook Live? Yes, we do. I showed you the example of the daily news show in Russian, which we do broadcast on Facebook Live, but we do also broadcast breaking news shows on Facebook Live. So if something extraordinary happens, we would just broadcast the TV signal on Facebook Live, and that's also sometimes very, very successful, I must say.
Sorry,
yeah.
Follow-up question. We are often asked to do kind of 2 jobs. The normal job, which is reporting. We have TV, we have radio, and also do social media, which we would like to do, but sometimes you are just one. Yeah. And how do you work with this problem?
Well, that's why I was talking about mistakes that we made. So I have to admit that in the beginning, some editors in the newsroom, they would send out a reporter and said, yeah, you're going to do, the TV coverage from the Deutsche Bundestag. And yeah, you can also do a Facebook Live, don't you? And then could you also write the online article and, of course, tweet? Yeah, don't forget about tweeting. So yeah, that's what happened at Deutsche Welle as well. And now we know that doing a Facebook Live requires a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, as I said, and also manpower. It's not, all that cheap, because you need to have those people if you want to be professional. And as I said, people really got used to live broadcasts, so you have to be professional. You don't have any other choice. So yeah, well, I know what you're talking about. We had the same problem, and sometimes it helps, to have the management staff being trained on Facebook Live, because then they get an idea of what this is all about, and then they might reconsider if one person alone can do all those jobs. There was one lady who was waiting all the time. No? Yeah, that was you, wasn't it?
It was an assembly question about...
Maybe take the microphone first.
I've worked a lot with Periscope TV via the agency that I do work for. I've seen the difference between sort of big channels that do what for me are just extensions of TV broadcast journalism, whereas the type of work that we did is very much putting me as the reporter in the background, and it's more breaking and live situations and extended live casts. I mean, in terms, and they've been very successful. And other reporters. I mean, I was pretty much we were the only sort of official channel covering the silent demonstration at Grenfell. We had 22,000 views, and that was actually without commentary. Well, with very little commentary. I mean, particularly in the silent bit, I can't, you know, I couldn't talk. I did try to give a very quiet commentary, but I was, you know, hissed at, and I had to very quietly sort of explain that, you know, we were live. But it did work really well, and people were really interested. And it just, in terms of explaining at that point, it was about where I focused the camera. In terms of the work that you're doing, I mean, how much, you know, it does seem that you're kind of reverting to the old, you know, TV formats in this, and it's just applying TV to a different channel, whereas the live medium can be a lot more flexible. There are situations, you're quite right, that security is an issue, where I've had to stay completely anonymous and use my anonymous account. I mean, we did, you know, there was a demonstration in the heart of Tunisia, and there were a few phishing comments that did sound like they were coming from the MMR, you know, Ministry of Interior, trying to suss me out. But I mean, you know, what concerns me about the big news channels is the sort of returning to very safe, very ultra produced formats that don't engage with live and breaking. And I think from my point of view, that big media are missing a lot of tricks that could actually open things up more and give a different kind of relationship and a different kind of veritas.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether you're relating now to the show that I've just shown.
I'm also talking about
because
the Berlin
it's kind
reports.
of TV. It's kind of TV style. I know it's more glossy than, you know, the very rough live report in a breaking news situation. I'd say we're doing both. Because, as I said, Facebook Live is not a format. There are like millions of possibilities of how you can do it. And we do still do it a lot during breaking news situations. We would always send a reporter out there to do a live report. But we also want to experiment with this sort of show because, as I said, with Facebook Watch, and Facebook really wants people to come to Facebook much more to watch videos, and we just, you know, want to be part of the game. So we are experimenting with this kind of shows. And I also think this does give people the opportunity to discuss certain topics in a safe environment where we are moderating the discussion and where we are providing them with journalistic information, and we really try, you know, to get the mix right between we are journalists and we are really doing professional work, but we also take the views and the comments of our users, our viewers very, very seriously, and try to include them into the show in a way. So we kind of trying to do like everything. Yeah. There were some more questions.
I think it's two questions and a remark. The first question is why to keep unsuccessful formats on Facebook, like this news, Russian news format. It's not successful. Why just to keep it just because few ones are watching? The second one for the podcast, I don't think keeping a podcast on Facebook, it's a great idea.
But podcast?
The podcast, like the Deutsche Welle Africa podcast. Would it make more sense maybe to just see the people who are in the studio? I mean, just make it more live and more personal. And the third point is really a follow-up on this remark, because I think over-planifying everything makes the format more sophisticated and makes me maybe as an audience feel like I'm watching TV. So maybe taking a little bit of risk and making it more live would be more interesting for audiences and really make the Facebook Live experience more valuable and more different than a TV experience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for these remarks. And you're absolutely right. You really have to be very careful, you know, not to overdo it and not to make it too much look like TV. And as I said, with this show, we're not really there yet. So maybe it's already too much. We are really experimenting, and we are trying to take feedback from our viewers very seriously. So thanks a lot. No, I know which one, yeah. And then the second remark was about Africa Link. That's actually a radio show. So that's a radio show that's being broadcast live via shortwave. It's not a podcast. And yeah, so we put it on Facebook Live, and I think it's pretty successful there. But yeah, you're right. It would be really nice to have a look behind the scenes and to see those people actually working this radio studio. We have actually discussed that, and I have to ask my colleagues why we didn't do it, because I like the idea of that as well. And then there was this third question, sorry. Why do we keep the Russian show? Yeah, as I said, it's just not costing us anything, and there are still people who are really fans of this show on Facebook Live, so, in general, it's not a good idea to keep formats which are not successful. And as I said, the Turkish show, wasn't really what we wanted, and it got really, really difficult, so we stopped it. Yeah, thank you. Maybe for this. Okay.
Hi, my name's Tom. I work for the Daily Express in London. I just wondered, since the algorithm change came in on Facebook, obviously placed less emphasis on social video and Facebook Live, how has that affected your reach and engagement? And second question, if it has significantly affected your reach and engagement with your viewers, has that caused you to experiment more with Facebook Live and different strategies?
I hope I got everything correctly, but I'm giving it a try. So first of all, the adjustment to the Facebook algorithm has not all that much affected us yet. We are keeping a keen eye on it, but we were really terrified that our rate would go down, but it actually didn't. We don't know why. It did go down for a certain time in Serbia and other countries where they did this kind of experiment of separating the news feed from anything else that people got. Fortunately, they stopped that, and now we are pretty successful on Facebook and haven't changed that much of a change yet. And other that the public sometimes thought was that they didn't, switch the algorithm overnight. They did it slowly, and they already started in the middle of last year. So all in all, we have watched this development carefully, and we haven't really seen such a huge change. Any more questions? Yeah.
Thank you. In Slovakia, the majority of live videos on Facebook are from press conferences of politicians. Mm-hmm. Are you also doing this because people really, I think, likes it? And
they don't, or they do?
They do. They do. They're thousands of them are looking at it, and because I think that they take it it is something behind the scenes, they know what exactly journalists are asking and how exactly the politicians are responding, and what is the mimics and everything, and they think they are right in the place with them. So did you try this, and was it successful?
Well, I think you always have to think carefully about who you are and who your audience is, and we are Germany's international broadcaster, so for us it doesn't really make sense to go to press conferences of some German politicians that nobody knows abroad. So that's one thing. But we actually tried a similar thing. We had this huge conference on climate change in Germany. I think that was already last year, wasn't it? Yeah, so with 30,000 delegates from all around the world, and we went to that conference and did a lot of Facebook Lives from there. Also, talk about how is it to attend this press conference if you are a politician from, say, Tanzania and are in Germany for the very, very first time. What are the topics you want to talk about? And that was kind of successful, but not really, really, really much. So we decided to only go live when it's something very important happening. And we kind of reduced the number of Facebook Live reports to really outstanding, very interesting situations. Yeah. One more question? Yeah.
Going back to live reports, sorry, it's my area of interest. But one of the challenges that we had, or certainly the agency had, I mean, connectivity is always a big problem, and of course we're a third-party provider. So we're often being asked for reports because we're known for getting video from remote places. I think we're one of the few agencies that managed to get any video out of Nauru. But there were a lot of, my agent was saying, there were a lot of requests for lives from Sudan because of the situation there. But the reality is that there's
there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
So.
But I mean, in terms of the work, because you're a bigger organisation, in terms of doing that kind of live reporting, have you been able to use satellite phones and other ways to uplink?
Of course, I mean
lives,
because
but
we're
still
also
using
a
mojo
TV
way.
station. Of course, we do have live view equipment, for instance, so we are able to go live, but we would rather do it for TV. I say in brackets, unfortunately, than just for a Facebook Live. But yeah, I mean, if there is no connectivity, there are always ways to have some if you really need it these days. But as I said, we'd rather use it for TV first and then for some Facebook Live report. Yeah, well, thank you very much for staying that long, and have a lovely evening. I hope you enjoyed the conference, and yeah, see you.